On today's Apple Daily, Apple's massive Christmas quarter. App tracking transparency will start with iOS 14.5, and the big upgrade to my setup. Highly recommended.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC. Join us in the iCave.
I'm iCave Dave, and if you want all that stuff that Siri just said, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you ring the notification bell and put hashtag notification squad down in the comments so that I know you've done all those things. Then you can join my notification squad and get a shout out at the end of the video like the other guys in this one. But let's get into the news. Apple's massive Christmas quarter. Of course, the biggest story of today is the huge earnings call from Apple yesterday, with every category in double-digit growth and overall revenues climbing from $91 billion up to $111.4 billion. That is a big jump. And we live streamed it yesterday. Apple spoke about how there are now 1.6 billion active Apple devices around the world in use, and 1 billion of those are iPhones. That's 1 in 6 people on Earth potentially having an iPhone. Yes, I know that a few people have more than one in use, but that's not really the norm. Around half of Mac and iPad purchases came from people new to the platforms, not upgrades, which means that the user bases are growing substantially. This is good for people on the platforms. Apple Watch purchases were 75% new users, not people upgrading. Now, what was that Italy was suing Apple for? Planned obsolescence? Please, Italy, wind your neck in. All these things show that people aren't finding their older devices are holding them back, which is exactly what Apple wants. If you think they're breaking your old stuff so that you buy something new, you're completely missing their actual intent, which is to get more working devices into people's hands so that they can use Apple's services. Services, which is where Apple is going to grow massively in years to come. Of course, they'll continue to make better products each time they refresh. Look at Apple Silicon. Each time macOS gets an update, though, there are likely to be more features exclusive to Apple Silicon, simply because the Intel Macs aren't capable of running them. Things like the ability to natively run iOS and iPad apps, but expect these features to be more prominent going forward as the hardware and software becomes more tightly integrated. App tracking transparency will start with iOS 14.5. Apple's terrorizing of Facebook's business model will go into full swing with iOS 14.5, apparently starting with the first beta version, which is expected imminently. Contrary to what Facebook's attack ads would have you believe, though, this won't actually destroy personalised ads as we know them, but simply mean that they have to request your permission to track what you do on your iPhone or iPad outside of their app. You'll still get adverts served to you based on what you do, like and follow on Facebook itself. And of course, if you use Facebook in the browser, on a Mac or a PC or on your iPhone, the protections won't be as effective. So Mark, you don't need to panic, you can keep most of your houses, probably. The big upgrade to my setup, highly recommended. Before I got my M1 Mac Mini, I was very much a multi-display person. My 2013 iMac was happily running alongside 2 extra 1080p panels, so when I switched to a system that could only take 2 displays, I knew I'd have to change things up a bit. For the first month, I was using a 21-inch HP 1080p display as my primary, with a 40-inch HD TV on the wall above. But moving away from the 2.5K, I think that's what it's called, iMac display with the 2560 by 1440 did feel kind of cramped. Well, cramped no more, as my 40-inch 4K JVC Smart TV arrived yesterday and is now proudly sitting as my main display, and it is glorious. Now I'm running it at the native 3840 by 2160 4K, which actually keeps everything almost exactly the same size as it was on the 21-inch panel, but with 4 times the pixels to play with. It also supports HDR10 and has 4K Netflix and all the rest of its stuff built in, so that I can sit back and veg out to a movie when I feel like it too. Now, there are a couple of downsides compared to an actual monitor. No height and tilt adjustments, of course, though I could wall mount it, but it just happened to work out that it sits exactly the right height to match that old panel on the wall already, and it actually covers the big thick bezel at the bottom of it. There's also some slight fringing, which is most noticeable around the highlights on the edge of windows in dark mode on macOS, but these don't really concern me at all. There's also been a couple of websites that have like a particular grey that seems to upset the panel and it flickers just on that little segment, but this might be something that I can adjust for in the TV's settings. If you know of anything like that, please let me know down in the comments. The other thing is I've not found a way to make it just wake up automatically when the Mac wakes up, so I do have to use the remote to bring it back to life. So a small price to pay for what is a £250 4K 40-inch monitor that will make me far, far more productive. Next up, we have iCave Answers, and if you want a question answered on the show, all you need to do, post it down in the comments with the hashtag iCave Answers, which is on the screen like just there right now, and I will answer it in our next show. This one comes from Suvik Mukherjee. I think I'm nailing that name. What new features do we expect to get from Apple Watch Series 7, and will there be a new SE or updated SE with an S6 chipset? Now, whenever I do these iCave Answers responses, I don't write a script for them. Everything else that I do on this show, I pretty much put into the teleprompter and I will read it, so it makes it a little bit more smooth, and it definitely makes it easier for me to edit afterwards. But with these questions, I like to just answer them off the cuff, although I will sometimes do a little bit of reading around the subject. But we don't actually have a huge amount of information about what's coming with Apple Watch Series 7. One thing that we are expecting is a redesign, so we're looking at probably getting a similar kind of look to the iPhone 12s with the flat edges instead of the round edges. It's the one thing at the moment that does stick out from the rest of Apple's line for having the really kind of rounded look that came along with the iPhone 6 series. So I think that is probably going to change. It was kind of in line with that when it first came out as well. So that would be my first expectation, is to have a nice flat squared off watch design. And I personally think that's going to look really, really premium. Next up, definitely a FaceTime cam. No! Don't put FaceTime cameras on it. I don't want a camera on my watch. It's going to be a terrible experience. So I really hope they don't do that. But we are hearing that they might be putting in fingerprint Touch ID under the screen. So that's a possibility. The other possibility is that they could put it on the side button on the watch. However, really only once a day do we have to unlock the watch, because once it's on your wrist, it stays unlocked, even when you're doing things like purchases out using Apple Pay or authorizing something on your Mac. All you're doing is double tapping that side button. Now, could Apple add Touch ID to the side button to make these things more secure, so you just pop your fingerprint on there instead of doing the double tap? Quite possibly. Could they do it under the screen? They probably could, because it looks like they're going to try and do that with the iPhones as well. But I'm not as confident about that. I think it's more likely to come in the side button. In terms of direct functionality though, I would kind of expect that intercom that's come on the HomePods could kind of replace what we have with walkie-talkie right now. I think those two things kind of should just meld together and become one thing, so you can kind of intercom someone's watch if they're somewhere in the house and there's not a HomePod nearby. I think that would be quite a nice little touch. There's also been talk of blood sugar monitoring. If they can do this through the skin without having to do finger pricks, that is going to be like miraculous for anyone that's got diabetes or needs to monitor their blood sugar. I don't know how effective it would be. Would it be accurate enough to decide how much medication someone's going to take? I don't know. I don't see that that's going to be an easy thing to do, and with how long it took for Apple to get approval for things like the ECG, the one-wire ECG that they built in from, I think it was Series 5. I don't know if they kind of want to go down those lines again, but we will see. But I would definitely expect that it's going to be more health-related stuff. What that health-related stuff looks like, I'm not 100% sure. Thank you so much for the question, and remember, you can ask your questions with hashtag iCaveAnswers. And on to Notification Squad. New members today, Max Goodwin, who actually joined a little while ago, and for some reason I missed him, so catching up on that one. Haroon Wahidi, Maynal Wakwitz, Andrew, I like that one, that's super easy. The Nikos1234, Andrew Stoker, Frank Petrier, maybe, and S. Sotrios Maximos. Thank you all for joining the Notification Squad. If you've got anything that you want to ask me, as I say, hit me up in iCave Answers. We've been doing a lot of them this week and I really enjoy doing them, so ask away with your questions. And also, I am on Clubhouse. I did my first room yesterday. If you're on Clubhouse, make sure you add me. The name is the one in the title of the channel, so you can use that, David Eden Sangwell, and I would love to chat to you guys on there. Catch you in the next one.